If you've been following Star Citizen in any way over the last few weeks, you'll have seen all this stuff about server player caps increasing. 120, I think they've even tested 130. They've done loads of testing on the PTU to see how many players they can get on a server. Now, this has been amazing. I've been loving watching the different videos, but my question is, how are they doing this and what can we learn from that? Because I think it's really interesting what they're probably doing in the background. So we're going to dive into some of the stuff they've said. We're going to look at some of the server stuff that they've mentioned in the past, which to be honest isn't a lot, but we've got some. And we're going to try and explain what they're doing and why this potentially looks like it's working. So let's get into it. If you've ever done a bunker mission in Star Citizen, you will know all about server performance. You will have seen AI standing around, not really doing anything. You could run up to them, run around them and punch them. And sometimes you'll do the same mission and they'll just murder you from nowhere. And a lot of this is to do with the server rate or the server tick rate, how fast the servers are running, the server frame rate. And so we have been saying for a while now that our client-side performance has greatly improved on our side. So our PCs, if you've got the fastest CPUs available now, you can get pretty decent performance, but that doesn't have really any correlation to do with AI performance or just things going on the server. And so there's been some interesting posts over the years looking at this, exploring what's going on. Some great Reddit posts about server tick rate and basically how the game compares to other FPS sort of games. And the answer is very poorly. The rate that the server is updating has always been very low. And actually, if you watch this clip from CIG, this was what they put most of the bad performance on.
With our server frame rates the way that they currently run, it's basically 7 to 10 frames. You know, when we get it running at 30 frames a second on the server, you'll see a major benefit.
So it's a lot less precise than what the client is, and so they get out of sync, and then you get weird behavior, a lag. And so if you get the server frame rate, which our target is 30 frames per second up, then the experience on the client side is better. And a lot of that weird AI behavior that people see, or doors not opening when they should open, isn't actually necessarily a bug. It's just that the server's gummed up or so far behind it, it's not telling the client in time to do stuff.
Exactly.
Now that video was from December 2019, so it is old, it's a long time ago. And so over the years they've been making gradual improvements, but nothing that has really remarkably shifted how the game performs for us. So why suddenly now, just as they're about to start working on server meshing, on all of the stuff that they're doing for 3.18, have they started to explore this? It seems like quite late on in the test cycle for the PTU they suddenly tried this. It must have just been because performance was so bad, and my suspicion is that a lot of this is tied up with the Siege of Orison, this new dynamic event that's coming, all FPS. And I've had one go on the PTU a while back and it was effectively unplayable. Like, yes, it was fun, you could see the design in it, but because the AI was not responsive, people were just, again, they were just walking up to them, punching them. I ended up following this one guy. I was trying to be all sneaky going around corners. He was just running up to people, AI, and just punching them, and that was all he was doing, and doing takedowns. He wasn't even trying to do anything. Basically, he wasn't trying to play the game. He knew that the AI was so unresponsive that he wouldn't even have to attempt to play the game as it was probably meant to. So my suspicion is that as they've tested the Siege of Orison on the PTU, they've come to the conclusion that they can't possibly put it out in the current state that it is because of the AI performance, and so they've been forced to look at this server stuff. And I think it might end up being one of the best accidents, maybe, or best things that's ever happened to Star Citizen, because from everybody's accounts so far, performance seems to be basically the same, not worse. At least the AI performance doesn't seem to be worse, but people seem to be much more happy with seeing many more players in the server and just much more chance of interaction. Whether that will pan out long term, we'll see. I wonder if people will spread out more as they play, rather than sticking together and going in these big groups and seeing these amazing videos with all these players all stuck together. It looks incredible. It's probably good marketing for the game, because this is probably what everybody had in mind when they bought the game. They want these massive big battles, or they want these huge server counts. So let's explore how these servers work and try and explain what they're doing, or what we think they're doing, because a lot of this, unfortunately, because CIG haven't told us much, is guesswork. So in order to understand what they're doing, we need to understand a little bit about servers. This is obviously way outside of my normal videos. I normally just look at your PC performance on the client side. So we are in uncharted territory for me, and so I would love people to correct me and to fill in the gaps for me in the comments. So please, anything I'm getting wrong here, please explain. As far as we're aware, well, we know that CIG are using AWS, Amazon Web Services, and if you go through some of the data and some of the information that we've had in the past, we know that they're using these EC2 servers. Now, I think they're also using the compute optimized ones, and so we've selected here these AMD EPYC processors. So it could be these, maybe it could be the Intel ones. The way this vaguely works, and this is complicated, is that they will basically spool up servers depending on need using AWS, and those servers can be of various sizes. The instances can be of various sizes. So we believe that CIG, from the past information that we've had, were using a CPU instance with 4 virtual CPUs. And again, all this is virtual because really what's going on is there's a server rack and it's running these instances within the server rack. It's all too complicated. What potentially they are doing is they've got this massive one down here, but they're actually chopping it all up themselves. But for the sake of this, we'll use this. We believe that they're using 4 CPUs. And so what they're doing with this new testing now, and this is the crux of what we're talking about, is that rather than having 50 players on 4 CPUs, what they could be doing, what we think they're doing, is maybe running 100 players on 8 CPUs. That is vaguely what we think they're doing. They did actually make a post about this, but they then changed the post. Hey all, just wanted to clarify that we're doing a test on our servers to see if fewer instances on the same virtual machines solve a few of our back-end issues plaguing the PTU. So that's what he originally posted, but then when we go to the edited post, as he said, he's edited it for accuracy, which suggests what he originally put wasn't quite right, or maybe they're trying to not give as much detail. Hey all, just wanted to clarify that we're doing a test on our servers, in this case, to profile them under different workload levels, in order to assess areas of new possible gain and remaining bottlenecks after recent optimizations in 3.17.2. And then it basically is the same. So a slight change of wording, but they're basically changing the load on the servers, different load levels or different amount of instances on virtual machines. However it looks, it's basically the same sort of stuff. Here is my paint explanation of this again. So we've got what we think CIG are currently using, maybe a 4 CPU, 4 core server instance with some memory, and that currently is running 50 players. We then think they're maybe messing around with different configurations. It could be 6, could be more, all sorts of things, more CPU cores, and probably more memory, maybe not. And that's 120 players. And the question basically is, with the 50 players on the server, they do all the AI stuff they normally do. They go off to different missions, they trigger AI, other things. It's not just AI, but that's the best, easiest example. Will this 120 server with more resources be able to basically do a better job of keeping track of all the AI and updating everybody? Because the major thing, as we said before, it's the tick rate, the server frame rate. If we know that it's roughly maybe 6, as low as 6, it could be anywhere. Let's say it's 10 on this 50 player server that we've got at the moment. Can they, with these extra resources, but still with more players, it's a bit of a juggling act basically, a tension between the player count and the AI that the players will trigger and the extra resources, because the AI might run on a certain amount of CPUs. We don't know how well threaded their server architecture and stuff is, but I imagine that this 4 core 4 CPU server instance is slammed at the moment, and so the idea is that giving more CPU resources potentially might allow the server to spit out more information for your client to update, and therefore all the AI stuff would be better and wouldn't be rubber banding around and all sorts of stuff. That is the theory. And the amazing thing about this is that it seems to be working. CIG have come out and said that they're going to give this a go when they're exploring basically what this will look like to put live with 3.17.2. Again, please get in the comments, explain to me what I've gone wrong on this one. I've just done this as really because I was interested in this. I just wanted to look at why they were doing this and how they were doing this. And so, yeah, I could be off the mark on some of this, so please educate me below. But that's enough of this one. If you like this more, normally look at kind of our personal PC performance, our client-side performance. That's normally what this channel is about, but I thought I'd try and dip into something a bit more technical, even more technical than normal. So subscribe if you like this sort of stuff. Like this video if you've liked it, and I'll see you soon. Bye.